Hi, I'm Mark, and today on Outside Views I want to talk about the fight between the British government and Boris Johnson and the newest right-wing Tory movement. But now Boris Johnson has revealed his communications against the will of the government, and they now require the ex-premier to handle the funds responsibly. We talked about the funds much earlier. So the British government did not cut a good figure for long stretches of the corona period, and not only ex-Prime Minister Johnson could get off badly in the Committee of Inquiry on this issue, but also then Chancellor of the Exchequer, Finance Minister and current Prime Minister Sunak. In the dispute over the transfer of WhatsApp messages from Boris Johnson to the Corona Investigation Committee, the British government has warned the Conservative ex-Prime Minister against going it alone now. Johnson had been reminded in a letter that he had to deal responsibly with public funds provided for his defense in the investigation. That was said by Johnson's party colleague and Secretary of State for Migration Robert Jenrick on the news channel Sky News. The Sunday Times had previously quoted from the letter. As a result, Johnson was warned against undermining the government's position on the COVID investigation. Otherwise, support will be discontinued. The background to this is that Johnson, against the will of the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government, forwarded part of his WhatsApp correspondence with government employees and cabinet members from the pandemic times, uncensored, and he forwarded them to the Corona Investigation Committee. The committee had previously requested the government to pass on the messages under threat of criminal penalties. However, they first wanted to have a court examine whether they could be forced to do so and describe the messages as undoubtedly irrelevant to the investigation. There is speculation that Sunak fears Johnson's WhatsApp correspondence could cast a bad light on his own role as Chancellor of the Exchequer in the pandemic. And Johnson, on the other hand, is said to have ambitions to return to the top of government, but not if he fails in this committee. Johnson's party colleague and Secretary of State for Migration, Robert Jenrick, as I said earlier, has now confirmed on Sky News that there was a letter with similar content. Johnson had received this letter, and this, seriously, the public funds that he's getting for his defense, another topic, but blackmailing him now with them? But the dispute also highlights the extent to which important government business in the UK itself is handled via a short message service. And the Corona Committee of Inquiry is to review the sometimes chaotic handling of the British government in the pandemic. And according to death certificates, around 227,000 people died of COVID in the United Kingdom. And despite the smaller population, this is much more than here in Germany. And now they are fighting about WhatsApp messages, but I seriously want to know what's in them, because messages between Johnson and his employees and cabinet members, if they are all so afraid of them, there must be something really fishy in there. Oh, dishy, rishy, fishy, rishy, whatever. And the committee will have an even more close look, or even closer look than usual on them, because of this resistance. Why would Sunak put up such a fight if there isn't anything in this that could really harm him? And we are slowly but surely going towards the next general election, and if this blows in the face of the government, the elections will also be, let's say, interesting. But definitely this is not the only problem Sunak has, not within his party, not within his government, because there are some things that also happened that I started to mention a little bit in the beginning of the video that also is starting to be big trouble for Sunak now. Because at the same time as all this kerfuffle, the British Conservatives have managed to produce something even worse than Boris Johnson. And you have to manage that at first. At a conference in London, they launched a new national conservative movement. Organized by the US-based Edmund Burke Foundation, it not only provided a platform for conservative backbencher MPs, but also for Home Secretary Suella Braverman, flanked by open racists and climate deniers. Conservatism is order or it's nothing, that's what Braverman told those in attendance. Law and order used to be the Conservative slogan. The only unpleasant thing is that in the last 13 years of its government, the party has ensured that the number of crimes per capita in the United Kingdom has doubled. And so Braverman reinterprets order as a crackdown on immigration and a war on the wokeness. Backbench Tory Danny Kruger railed against intellectuals and the global elite. Well, he was educated at Eton College, where a single year costs £46,000. He admonished everyone that marriage between a man and a woman is the sole basis for a secure and prosperous society. And his colleague Miriam Cates added that the low birth rate was a single overarching threat to all Western society. And historian David Starkey claimed from the podium that anti-racist activists sought the symbolic destruction of white culture. In short, the conference marked the inauguration of a true Donald Trump-style right wing of the Conservative Party. And Boris Johnson's most ardent supporters were uninvited and even held their own competing conference. Johnson basically believed in nothing. Braverman and her allies, by contrast, are on a, let's call it cultural mission. The Net Cs, as the new movement was called, want a return to strict social conservatism plus low immigration. Against all evidence, they believe that wages and skill levels will rise if only migration stopped, which is complete bullshit. At a deeper level, however, national conservatives are concerned with reversing modernity. They know that for many older Brits, keeping it as it was is attractive. And many of them represent the so-called Red Wall, the deindustrialized towns in northern England that voted Conservative for the very first time in 2019 and what Labour wants to get back now, where community cohesion and well-paying jobs are a dim memory. But there's no way back to the past. The right-wing Conservative vision of today is always just a distorted image of a glorified yesterday. That's the same with all the empire. But why do people fear them coming? Because they are tolerated in the Conservative Party. Braverman may be fired for incompetence and breaking the rules, but not for chairing a conference of racists and climate deniers. And because there is American funding and intellectual impetus behind this project. It's part of an international effort to mold conservatism after the values that produced Trump. The Edmund Burke Foundation, which sponsored the conference, opposes any form of multilateral institutions in geopolitics. Their system requires every country to be nationalist. And it shows that liberal conservatism is all but dead in Britain. Its intellectual traditions were shattered by Brexit and the Johnson experience. And this new mix of white victimism, anti-wokeness, climate denial, and celebration of heterosexual family values has a good chance of being considered conservatism once the current government is ousted. Britain, but even the West as a whole, needs responsible mainstream conservatism. But conservatism itself is in deep crisis in many places. For those who still didn't get it, because I have to say so much against the, let's say, conservatives in Britain, I am a member of a conservative party myself. I am a conservative, but I'm a modern conservative, because conservatism doesn't mean you want all as it was. That is not what conservatism ever meant. There are certain values my politics are based on. But these values have no problem with changing times. And that is something others haven't learned. And all those nationalists, and that's why we don't want to have anything to do with this Trump-style stuff, those nationalists are a real danger, because that's not conservative. That's right-wing extremism. And it's not conservatism. They are a danger appearing everywhere. And in most countries now. On my magazine channel, I recently talked about the elections in Spain and the results of Vox. In Poland and in Hungary, it's even worse. They are the government there. In Germany, we have the AfD on an all-time high because of the performance of our Social Democrat Green Liberal government. The AfD in Germany, those are right-wing extremists, and our guardians of the Constitution, or this police force, is watching them because of what they're doing and assessing them. And they are stronger than the Greens now in Germany. And in the last polls, they have the exact same strength as the Social Democrats. That's the party of our current chancellor. And in this case, in Germany, the Conservative Party does have a problem in the case of we are not as strong as we were in the past, but we are not in deep trouble anymore. There was another time, but we are still by far the strongest party here in Germany in all the polls. But even the German Conservative Party has a lot of work to do still, because there are some people trying to get on the train of the right-wingers. If you use their language, if you jump on their positions, you're just doing one thing, making more people voting for the original. And some people from the Conservative Party in Germany need to come back to the values of the Conservative Party and not run after the populist topics of the AfD. But it's a real danger everywhere in the world. Trump became president with those tactics, and in the UK, it was working more and more for some time. And I don't know what's going to happen with the Tory party if this Braverman wing of the Tory party manages to take over the whole party for the elections in 2029, 2030. That will be a time where we will be discussing even much worse things than what we're discussing right now. And this white cultural thing came through in comments under my videos already by certain people, and this is such racist. There was really stuff. They don't behave white. What is white behavior? There is proper behavior, and I don't care what color of skin the person has that behaves properly in my country. And there's bad behavior, and I don't give a flying flamingo what the skin color is of the person that's not behaving in my country. What I want is that everyone behaves properly and according to law. That is one thing that makes me conservative. But enough preaching for today. I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.